me as a black woman, like I said, that my reproductive health is already an issue in this election. So I'm already not voting for Trump. So off based off of that, just period. Because y'all have shown me y'all don't give a crap about my life. Y'all
And this is
don't.
and this is my point. That one issue connects, and it's very easy for people to understand. Welcome to a new show here on Common Sense. Well, it's not totally new. It's called Moving Parts. And it's a show where every American election, we turn our eyes to America, of course, being based in the UK. But we also invite two people who are part of the Common Sense Network, who contribute from America to try and get their take on what's going on. Now, we've tried to start this show 5 times at this stage. And every time we record something, it's immediately defunct because some crazy thing happens, as is, sort of the story in America. But what we're going to try and do is really work hard to make sure every week you're getting an episode from us where we're basically making sense of all the different things that's going on in the American elections, giving you some takes, helping you work out what's a political gaffe, what's working, what's not working, etc. And you'll be glad to know it isn't just me. So joining me will be Jaylen Small. Jaylen, what are you looking forward to this election cycle?
I'm looking forward to change we could believe in.
Okay, I mean, what does that mean? Change we can believe in?
I'm just kidding. I'm looking forward to change. I'm looking forward to a new candidate who hasn't, run, or she has run, but hasn't been in this position before. I think a lot of Democrats wanted Biden to kind of pass the torch during his presidency. I'm not really sure how well he did that, but it has kind of happened that he's passed the torch. So I'm excited to see what they do with the torch.
I mean, Jaylen, you're showing your hand there. You're clearly rooting for Kamala Harris. And I've just wondered, maybe Siobhan, who's going to be joining us as well, has a different sort of take. Siobhan, what are you looking forward to this election cycle?
Well, I was looking forward to seeing what the Biden campaign was going to do this go round, but clearly they're no longer relevant. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm all for yay. I'm rooting for her and all the stuff, but I am skeptical. I'm not like Jaylen that says, "Oh, Kamala's gonna win." I'm skeptical.
So, am I right in thinking you are happy that a black woman or Indian American woman, that's probably a conversation we ought to have, is going to be sort of president, or are you sort of not really interested in that sort of identity politics?
I am rooting for. Well, I was gonna say I'm rooting for everybody black, but considering that that's even a taboo topic, I'm rooting for the woman of color.
Okay, for obvious reasons. So the way this show is going to work is we're going to every week we're going to take a look at the Trump campaign, what they're doing, what's working, what's not working. Then we'll take a look at the Biden campaign. Sorry, Biden. I need to get into my head. We now have a new person running. We're going to take a look at the sort of Harris campaign, what's working, what's not working, and then I guess at the end we'll have an open forum. Go back and forth. Maybe some things we missed out. Let's start with the story that sort of emerged not too long ago. Donald Trump, who of course was doing actually better than Biden in some polls when it came to black people, decided that, hey, I'm going to go to the National Association of Black Journalists to sit down with these black journos and talk about what I've done for the black community. Because since Harris has been announced as a Democratic sort of candidate, she's been stealing back some of that support, right? More and more blacks, if you like, are voting for Kamala Harris. So he went there to try and, win them back and show them that, hey, listen, I am the best president for black people since Abraham Lincoln. So let's watch a video of how that went. And then I'll have you guys sort of react to what you saw. So here's a video of him. And this is just one question. The whole exchange was like 30 something minutes. I need to play this. Hold on a minute.
then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a Black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
Black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a Black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do
And
you believe
I
that
think
she is
somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some
I
Republicans
really
have
don't
said?
know. I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty.
Then we'll move on.
Okay, so that's some of the exchange, guys. Let's just start with Jaylen. What's your take? I mean, how do you think that went?
I mean, I think he's playing to his base at the end of the day. At the end of the day, Donald Trump knows that he will not get more than 85% of the Black vote, right? So I think in my head, when I read that, that's very much him still trying to appeal to his white, predominantly male audience.
But why would he go? Why would he go to the NABJ to do that? I mean, what does he gain from going to this? I mean, his base already going to vote for him. So why was he
in
there?
the beginning that he felt like he was there under false pretense because apparently they had invited Kamala / Biden as well as him. So I think in terms of why he attended, I think the strategy probably was an opportunity to speak to kind of Black voters in that kind of forum. But at the end of the day, he's not going to compromise his base for Black support. And he didn't. As you can tell by how he answered that question.
I mean, Siobhan, we got to give you time on this.
Okay, so I mean, this is typical Trump, but here's also another thing too. He's Black people as a whole. Well, I wouldn't say Black people as a whole. There are some Black people that feel the same way that how Trump stated. That some people do feel like that she's only playing up the Black card because it's beneficial towards her. Because there are people who have stated that they didn't know that she was mixed with Black because she never really necessarily stated that she was mixed with Black. It was always she was Indian. She promoted her Indian heritage over her Blackness. So he's playing off of those that demographic too within the Black community, because there is mixed emotions with Kamala Harris within the Black community.
I think, can I just jump in on that real quick? I think the conversation around Kamala's heritage, don't zoom me. You can do all three. I want to see your reactions too. But I think the conversation around Kamala's heritage is somewhat an indication of people's, for lack of a better term, ignorance about ethnicities in different places. Like, it's very common in the Caribbean and the West Indies that people have South Asian as well as Black heritage. My family's Trinidadian. There's people in my family who have Black and South Asian heritage. I don't really see why it's such a confusing thing for people to grasp. I do take Siobhan's point that I think the media has very much struggled with it on both sides, in the sense that they'll say, oh, she's the first South Asian, oh, she's the first Black. Like, I take that as a thing, but I don't really see Kamala Harris doing that herself. I think, just from my perspective, like I said, as someone who's Trinidadian, it's not that confusing to me.
I don't think it's confusing to any adult. I think one of the most interesting things about Donald Trump is how old he is and how little he's learned over time. the fact that the idea of biraciality or having or being multiple race is still like some he's like, and then she was black. I didn't know she was black. And you're like, really? Like at your precious age of 80, whatever you are, how on earth do you still not understand that you can both be Indian and black? Like would his head explode if like she also had like an Irish mother? Would it be like, whoa, you know? And
But
so
he's not the only, I'm sorry, but he's not the only one that feels that way, though, because there are other people in America that also have a mixed concept off of biracial, a biracial race. So I can't say that it's just Donald Trump being ignorant. There are other Americans who are also ignorant, and he was
so
playing to that by making that statement at
yeah.
the National Black Journalists
I
conference.
was going to ask you a question. So if we kind of put our political hats on here, do you think it was genuine ignorance, or do you think this is part of him working the room to work out what sticks? Because he's tried a bunch of different things. He's called her laughing Kamala, which didn't work. Then he said lying Kamala, that didn't really work. And so, do you think it's this sort of DEI? She's kind of this ambitious woman who is using whatever she can to get to the top, a trope we often see used against women and women of color. Do you think that's what he's trying to do here, is find what's going to stick and be his line throughout the rest of the campaign?
Absolutely. This is nothing but a gimmick in a campaign. Because, truth be told, I do not think that Trump is that ignorant. He's been around in the business world far too long to know about all of this. No, he's trying to think about what can stick to tarnish Kamala's campaign to make her less credible. Because I guarantee you, if they're smart, they're going to come out of her. They're going to come and attack her background, and they're going to attack her race to
Mm.
demote and to water down her blackness.
And
They've all,
Jalen, do you think do you think it will work?
I mean, I don't know, 10 years ago, Trump, or maybe more than 10 years ago, Trump started the birther movement about Obama, or maybe not started it, but kind of popularized it. I think there's a lot of correlations between this and that. So I do think it'll work for the same people the Obama stuff worked for. Do I think it'll work for the country? No. Do I think it'll work for the election? I guess that remains to be seen.
What's fascinating to me is just how much it looks as though the Trump campaign is really flailing. JD Vance is going through all sorts of manner of, I mean, every quote he's shared on a podcast. This is probably a cautionary tale. Don't go on podcasts, because everything he said on the podcast from years ago keeps coming back up. And he's saying all these odd things about people with families should get extra votes. And if you don't have children, then you're loveless. And he said all that. So that it hasn't really worked. That kind of boost you normally get after you pick a VP has kind of worked the other way. So what's going on with the Trump campaign? Like, why are they struggling so much to find sort of their momentum again? I mean, don't forget, this man survived an assassination attempt, and people have forgotten about that. And like the bump he got was like for 5 days, and people just forgot and moved on. Like, how do you rate the Trump campaign?
I don't think they expected Kamala to be the nominee. I think that's what happened. And actually, in their defense, I don't think the Democratic Party expected Kamala to be the nominee either. So everybody is just trying to like unprecedented, trying to get their bearings before November. And I would like to say it's August. The election is in 3, 4 months.
I think it
And we're
depends when this goes out.
right. Right. I said it all depends. So everything's pivot. Everybody's scrambling to get it together. Like they just confirmed Kamala Harris as the nominee, or she has enough votes to become the nominee. So I'm like, they don't know how to deal with it. And I do not think they knew how to deal and handle Kamala, because now she is becoming semi threat, because now there is a momentum running behind Kamala. Because I'll say this, I said it's like the lesser of two evils, but at the same time, it's like if you don't vote, there's much more at stake. So I guarantee you, they weren't expecting any of this.
Yeah, and Jaylen, like, what do you think the campaign's going to do next? Because they're clearly struggling here,
Mhm.
and so one thing that Trump has done in the past is anytime he makes a gaffe, or because it's hard to look at that NABJ interview and say, oh, that was good. It was clearly didn't work. People were laughing at him in the room. Like all the media outlets have so do you think he's going to lean heavy into this? Because it's what he does, right? He'll be like, yeah, she's a DEI and lean into it. Or do you think they're going to change tack to try and work out something else that might stick?
Um, I think that, I'm not Nostradamus, so I don't really know. I think that if I had to guess, they're going to keep trying to find something that sticks until something newsworthy happens. I feel like you started the show by saying, every time we try to start this, something crazy happens that changes the whole landscape. I think we're kind of 2 weeks overdue. Frankly, I think that we're overdue for something big to happen. Um, that will kind of take the news cycle. Right now, the news cycle is about Kamala got the nomination. Oh, we love Kamala. But pretty soon it's going to change. I think today the stock market, the S&P 500 had the biggest drop in a single day since like 2020. So the economy might play a role. Something might happen with immigration. Like I think there's a lot of things still in store. So
And I mean, if we just turn to the Harris campaign, when Hillary Clinton, that is, ran, I think she was defeated by the perfect storm, right? She had that weird cough. Of course, we know there was interference. There was the Comey report. Like everything just came together to conspire against her winning. God clearly didn't want that woman to win. But for Harris, it seems like everything's coming together. One, she's VP, so she's already been vetted, right? All her ugly whatever she did when she was young, like that's all come out already. So there's really no big reveal that the Trump campaign have, and so you have that. She obviously right until the end didn't really have any spotlight put on her for good reason. And so she's been able to kind of like sail through all the kind of extreme testing that she would get. And she gets this really short campaign. We always say it. The problem with America from us in the UK is your elections take too long. There is so much time spent campaigning that so much happens and changes. But in the UK, we have 6 weeks and then we vote. With Kamala, she has less than 96 days left. And so she's going to benefit from this short campaign because whatever Trump can find, there's not enough time to make it stick. And with her, if she can run this vibes campaign, which is what she's running, I don't know if you can see her on TikTok. She's there with Quavo, with Megan Thee Stallion. She's sort of doing this, all these, and people are eating it up. They're comparing the two campaigns and saying Donald Trump is this boring same old guy who wants to take it back. And Kamala's got joy and she's got young people excited and animated. And it's like
the
everything's
vibes
working.
won't work. The vibes won't work for long, though. I think the problem with the Democratic Party is I think we're very smart. Not we. I don't mean to be so partisan, but the Democratic Party
Hey,
is very
hey,
smart
be
and
yourself. Be
educated,
yourself.
and I just think that at some point we will need to hear policy positions, and we haven't really heard those yet. But at some point that will be important. How she feels about the economy, we know how she feels about reproductive rights. But there are a lot of key issues. How she feels about immigration, I'm not really sure. How she feels about the war between Israel and Palestine. I think there's a lot of major issues that she hasn't really come out with a position on that Democrats will be keen to hear.
And let's also be clear here. She was in the spotlight for a reason. And one thing that if the Republicans are smart on, they're going to hone in on her position on immigration because she botched that. If you all remember, the reason why she wasn't in the spotlight is after she made her statements on immigration, they said, "House Negro, go back into the house. You
Whoa,
can't
whoa,
become
whoa,
you.
whoa,
You
whoa.
can't come out. Whoa, 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 nothing, because that's how it happened." I said, so
Well,
I don't, they shut her up so much That is not. I'll let you talk, Jaylen. Let me speak. I'll let you talk. Like I said, so I'm just under the impression that yes, you will have to have policy, and if the Republicans are smart, they will tone in on that off the stuff that she has had during her vice presidency, especially on immigration.
Mm. Go on, Jaylen.
I was just gonna say immigration. I don't think I could say this in a concise and pithy way, but I think the Biden administration has. I think to say that Kamala and the Biden administration failed on immigration is a take that might not really be aligned with the reality of the situation at the border. But I think that's probably a whole different conversation that we can have at a different date. But I
Well,
think
well,
there's a
well,
lot of
well, well,
hyperbole in
if we actually look at what happened, Kamala was tasked by Biden to find out the root causes, right, of what was happening at the border. She did
Yes.
do that, right?
Yes.
Now there was an interview she had that was terrible, where they said, "Have you been to the border?" And she was like, "I haven't been to Europe," and it was like, "What?" That was a ridiculous statement. But I don't think that one interview is tantamount to failing, right?
Yes.
There's the issue is how things have been framed. For instance, people could say she was the border czar. That's not a position. There's nothing such as a border czar. That's a framing of it to hold her responsible for it. In
I mean, the
terms of
director of Homeland Security is technically responsible for the border. That is not the
correct,
responsibility of the vice president.
correct, but
That is
also
underneath the president of the United States. That is
Not the
but
vice
underneath
not,
the
president.
executive
but not the vice
branch.
president,
Not the
but not
vice
the
president.
vice president, not the vice
Either
president.
way, like I said, either way. But like I said, we can blame who, what, whatever. That interview, if they're smart, they can hone in on that. So,
Correct.
like I said, yes, the vice president, exactly. It's just, oh, yay, I'm going to make a few appearances here and there. I'm going to smile. I'm going to do this. I'm going to kiss the baby. But here's the thing you saw less of her after that incident. And that is a way for the Trump campaign to attack her. Regardless if anybody wants to admit that or not, that is a way. And we don't have much on the policy on how she feels towards immigration. Now, out of
Mm.
all the things that matters with this godforsaken country, like I said, that has to probably be somewhere sprinkled in the middle. But guarantee you, how you answer on policy is going to determine how the American population is going to view you, especially, and I do mean especially, how it comes to the economy, because
And I
every
think,
every
and I think
American
you're,
loves their coins.
yeah, and I think you're right on this, Siobhan, because that's a lot of the attack ads already are replaying that interview and saying that she's soft on immigration, she's soft on the border, etc., etc. Of course, I don't think it's true, and I think once you fact check it, you kind of see that. But to your point, that is ammo that they've given her. Now, here's why I disagree with you both, though. I actually don't think this election is about policy, mainly because it's a very short election cycle based on when Kamala came in. I don't think there's enough time to get into the weeds of policy. There's probably going to be one debate between both of them. That's if Trump's team get a chance to renegotiate the terms because they won't do it at ABC. And so, realistically speaking, you're only going to get to see them against each other once. That's the only split screen you're going to get to see. The American public will get to see. And so, it's really about her doing these rallies, showing the energy behind her. Really, and again, it's still quite early. A lot of the polling data hasn't come in yet, so we don't know how she's doing in swing states yet. And so, I actually think she can run on one issue. If she zones in on women's reproductive rights and she focuses on that, she's got enough time in the next 90 days to really make a dent. On the economy, I think she can talk about that. She can say whatever position she wants, but I just don't think it's going to cut through because there's just not enough time. And again, we can disagree on this, but I think if you look at her campaign strategically, that's what they're doing. She's going around these different rallies. She's got more planned, and she'll talk about Donald Trump taking us back and the fact that she's moving us forward. She'll talk about the fact that, you know, with women's reproductive rights, when Congress passes it, she'll sign it into law. She's said that about 6, 7 times already. And you'll note every single time Donald Trump tries to drag her into some comment, she doesn't get involved. Her response to the NABJ interview and this whole DEI thing was to just be like, He wants to take us back. We're moving forward. She's not getting drawn in because she knows if she just keeps this vibe thing up, she's gonna go all the way to the White House. And I think that's what her team is playing. But whether it will work, what are your thoughts?
I hope I am wrong. I really do. I don't think I am because, again, time and time again, at every election cycle, the economy, like I said, the economy is king. So if the economy is trash, by the time we have to vote, I guarantee you they're gonna go for the orange man. I guarantee you that. So I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I really hope I'm wrong. I was hoping I was wrong in 2020, and I was. So we'll see. I love you all's optimism. I truly do. This is real cute. I hope the vibes win, but I do not think that it's going to go the distance. I really don't.
I
Well,
agree. I agree that the vibes aren't going to go the distance. I actually disagree with you that this election will be decided by policy, right? So you speak about the swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio. That's the 3.
mhm.
Um, if you look at them, one of the main reasons Democrat even have a chance in those states is because of the infrastructure bill that was passed during Biden's term that has brought a whole lot of money to those counties, towns, municipalities, yada, yada, yada. Um, Same thing with immigration, same thing with reproductive rights. I actually think, despite what the media shows, I don't think the media is really reflective of the sentiment of the American people. I think this entire election is about policy. And I fundamentally think that Donald Trump is the vibes candidate. I think Trump is the vibes
But
candidate.
Trump hasn't mentioned any policy
He
at
does
all.
mention policies. They're outlandish policies and they're, media attention
What
policies.
policy? When he was asked about the economy at the NABJ, he waffled for 3 minutes about the importance of American jobs. Like he didn't say anything. He didn't
He said
answer
that
any
he
questions.
brought jobs.
No,
He
no.
said that he
When they
created
said no, no,
jobs.
they are. The lady, I forgot her name, asked him, what are you gonna like? Black communities, which is already obviously asterisk. What does that mean? But black communities aren't feeling the benefit of this quote unquote growing economy. How are you going to ensure essentially prosperity trickles down? He spent 4 minutes saying nothing. I mean,
Yeah, but
I wish we could play it back.
I think the different perspective we have is the question to me is what's important. At the end of the day, Americans are really hurting and suffering in a lot of different ways. And I
Correct.
think they really do care about policy. Like, it is not the case that everything is good and we can afford to really, I mean, obviously, some people are afforded to be moved by the vibes, but I fundamentally think even if you look at the billionaires, like, they're not voting Trump. They're not voting Trump because of his vibe. Like, they're voting for
Of
him
course not.
because he's proposing deregulatory policies.
A tax
Yeah,
break.
but the people in the people in the Trump so at the RNC convention who are crying and waving Trump banners aren't waving it because he's going to cut their taxes. They're not the billionaire class that
I
he's
disagree.
or the other. What you the middle class support that Trump
Taxes
has.
not specifically. Taxes not specifically, but I disagree that they're
But
not.
that's what I said.
But it's also how you look at the, like I said, with looking at the tax code, because there are some people, middle class Americans, that was so gung ho about this tax code and not necessarily knowing that in 2026 or next year and 2 years from now, we're screwed because of it. So I don't think Americans, I'll say this, don't do enough research on their own to know what policy affects them. For me, as a Black woman, oh, like I said, that my reproductive health is is already an issue in this election. So
Mm.
I'm already not voting for Trump. So off based off of that, just period. Because y'all have shown me y'all don't give a crap about my life. Y'all
And this is
don't.
and this is my point. That one issue connects and it's very easy for people to understand. You've
But that's
got
just
you go ahead.
sorry, but that's just one of many. I'm also infuriated that my mortgage rate has gone up. I'm infuriated that a loaf of bread in 2020 was in Illinois was about I'll say about three, 250. Now it's almost $4 freaking.
$4.
In the state of Illinois, yes, it is. In Springfield, Illinois, yes, the hell it is.
You
So
need to move
yes.
to Texas.
Oh hell
I
no.
need to move to Chicago.
Oh no no no! Oh no, honey! Oh no! Like I said, your taxes is going to be you're going to spend $7 for a loaf of bread in Chicago because of the taxes. Welcome to Illinois.
So as we come up to the end, I want you guys to. I mean, I love that we have different takes, right? I love it. I actually I'm very seldom described as an optimist, Siobhan. So I love that you call me an optimist because no one calls me that. I think my approach to a lot of these things is to follow the data. I want to see polling data. Now I'll be real. In the 2016 election, I really thought polling data would show the one thing, and of course we saw another thing. So I'm still scarred from that period. But let's end by saying one thing that you think um, isn't being spoken about right now, but will become a really important feature in the election. So something that's maybe not being discussed right now, but you think will become a really important issue later on that kind of people can look at. So give you guys time to think. Let me say one first. I think I think the vice presidential picks might become quite important. Now, historically, it adds nothing to the race. There might be initial bump, when they're announced, but 5 days after, it's not there. But I think there's enough going on in JD Vance's world that I think he actually could damage Trump. And I think we might see that happen when we see the vice presidential debates if they happen. So that's one thing I think we ought to be paying attention to. What about you guys? Anything else?
When the vibes clear and we're off the vibes, I really do think that policy is going to matter, specifically the economy. See how the economy trends and see how the both of them answer to it.
Similar to Siobhan, I think that I would say specifically deregulation. I was watching a conference that Trump went to maybe a week or two ago. He went to this big crypto conference in Miami,
Oh yes,
um,
I saw that.
talking about making it easier for crypto investors, which kind of aligns with the theme that he generally holds of, deregulation for finance and for businesses to make people more money. I think it's an interesting play just because I think it affects donors, and it affects the uber wealthy. So I think deregulation specifically around cryptocurrency and like the major companies. So like what is the FEC or the SEC stance on Google and Microsoft? Like I think those are going to be really important questions that people don't talk about, but will
Hmm.
actually swing the election in a lot of different ways.
Good to hear. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for being part of this. I love the Our Spirited debates. I'm just going to turn now to the folks who've watched this long and say, listen, if you enjoy this, hit the subscribe button, make sure you're part of our community so you can see more videos. And of course, let us know what you think. We're not just going to tell you what to think. Feel free to challenge our perspectives. Do you think these issues will be really important issues? Are there other issues we haven't spoken about that we ought to? Let us know what you think as we watch this once in a generation election where democracy is on the ballot.